Happy Devils Wednesday. This is State of the Fan Address. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Nick Villano of pucksandpitchforks.com as we're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, and now on Instagram Live on the Let's Go Devils Network. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios inside the bunkers of both North and South Jersey, covering the Garden State, talking Devils hockey. Lots to go over. Lots of pundits all over the hockey world chiming in on what Sonny's been up to. We've got opinions. We've got your opinions. Yeah, man. Nick, I don't even know where to start right now because
I know where to start.
every 4 hours there's something good coming over the wire.
I got a GM who's got cojones, Sam.
Balls.
He's coming in with big steel balls. I have a GM who is willing to put it all on the line, and here's what I love about this, Sam. Is he going to come in here and have and been quiet and made some good moves? He traded Drake and Markstrom to your old team. You kind of get out of that mistake by your predecessor. You add a couple pieces. You draft it forward a little bit, out of range, and it but you get some really good picks on day two. You go the analytics route. You build a team, and honestly, without this move, the Devils are. If the Devils get a goalie or get good goaltending, they're a playoff team. Probably. And Jack Hughes doesn't get a devastating injury. It's currently constructed, probably a playoff team. Whether it's a wild card or a Metro 3. Yeah, and then you re-sign Nico Hischier, which we'll get into, sure. But as we watched things go down on the first day of free agency, you saw some teams get better. You see a lot of teams make really questionable decisions. And Sonny sat back. Some of the moves, some of the signings he made are kind of meh. Besides the re-signings, the signings are fine. Whatever. I don't even know how to say some of them, but and I think it's less than 2 hours ago, we got word. Sonny Mehta, he made the big boy move. He got an offer sheet. Barrett Hayton, Utah Mammoth. He's a restricted free agent. 1 year of control left. Sonny Mehta goes and gives him a 1-year contract. He walks him to unrestricted free agency. It's a stressful move for whoever gets Barrett Hayton. You're walking him to free agency. You're Zach Parise-ing him. So I believe it's $4.775 million. So the Devils would still have quite a little bit of money left. They can make something work if they wanted to still get a goalie or move some defensemen around. There's still some appetite to do that even after this move. So I know a lot of people are saying, well, Sonny handcuffed himself because he has to wait 7 days to see if Utah is going to match. And now he has $4.775 million tied up. I don't think so. I think Sonny Mehta is going to go into the season with cash to spend because I think he sees that he's been with the Panthers for how long? They see that as an opportunity. I could go into the season and get a guy for the equivalent of half or less of his cap hit, because I traded for him in January or February, So I think that he's going to go into the season with some cap space and make it work for him. So I don't think that $4.775 million is going to be a detriment. I think he'll make it work if he wants to make other moves. But at the same time, it's not like there's many free agents that you want. Most of them got signed. Right? I really liked Oliver Bjorkstrand as a cheap free agent. But he signed with the Rangers. Good for them, but the Rangers made some very bizarre moves today. They traded Trocheck to those same Mammoth, and I think this actually led to the Devils' deal, right? So the Mammoths traded for Vincent Trocheck, who plays the same position as Barrett Hayton, for Sean Dursey, who's a defenseman, not a forward, and then a forward prospect who's still in the OHL. So he's not gonna. He doesn't count towards the team's salary cap, or sorry, to the team's forward contracts. So the Utah, after making that deal and signing Anders Lee, they now got 14 one-way contracts, and I think they have a 15th. I gotta look at their cap sheet, but I think they have a 15th that they'd want on the roster, who's like on an entry-level contract. That said, Mehta put Utah in a really bad position, and a lot of people say, I'm gonna say something, and this might hurt us because we want to get guests again. We got a guest starting next week, and we're gonna the next 2 weeks. We got guests lined up. Some of these reporters, I don't ever want to hear them talk about restricted free agency again. Frank Saravalli coming out and being like, basically saying it's a stupid offer sheet because it's an easy match for Utah. If Utah doesn't match, Saravalli should be fired. You're an insider guy. That's your thing. You couldn't get this more wrong if Utah doesn't match. And, a lot of people are saying, like, well, the Devils just negotiated a contract. There's no way they wanted to walk Barrett Hayton to free agency. There's no way. And Sonny made a new. And here's the thing. We talked about this earlier today on Twitter. The Devils don't have their 2027 third-round pick because they traded to Pittsburgh in the Cody Glass trade. So they can't do most of the offer sheets. Most of the offer sheets need a third-round pick. And if you remember, you need your own third-round pick to do an offer sheet. So the Devils couldn't do the one underneath the threshold they're doing, which I think is like 2.5 to like 2.5 up to like $2.5 million. You give up a third-round pick. They can't do the one above them, which is 4 to 7. I think that's where a lot of people want to be, because I believe that one's a first and a third-round pick. They couldn't do the one above it, which I think is 7 to 11 million, because that's a first, second, and third round pick. And then obviously they could do the top one, which is 11 million and up. Don't quote me on those numbers, but you essentially know what I'm talking about. 4 first round picks for those that premium player. This was the only one he could really do. Is this second round pick only one, and I think he came out looking really good. Because, again, do I think the Utah Mammoth think that Barrett Hayton's worth a second-round pick? No. Do I think the Utah Mammoth are willing to wait until next? They can't trade him. If they accept this offer sheet, they can't trade him this offseason. Now they have to trade somebody else just to keep Barrett Hayton for a year. They clearly, and Cam Robinson I can't remember where Cam Robinson's right now, but Cam Robinson came out and said that the Devils in Utah had a trade at the draft, and Utah backed out. So it seemed like Sonny was kind of biding his time here. It might have been why he was quiet. Might have been why he's not going after a forward. So, Sam, what was your initial reaction? Before I get into what the Devils are going to get in Hayton, what was your initial reaction?
Ninja, welcome to the Sonny era, because the good old boys club of being courteous, with the exception of maybe Bobby Clark years ago and a couple other, the thing with Carolina and Montreal, if you remember. I think Sonny has weaponized, because I guess they had a deal fall apart, from what I'm understanding. And this is what Sonny does. I love it, and I don't care if this guy's good or not. I mean, he's definitely a good player, but I love it. I absolutely love that, because somebody reneged. They probably reneged on the deal, Utah. I'm guessing here, and Sonny Mehta says, "All right, you're gonna play those shenanigans. Guess what? I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to at least try. And it sets the tone. It really sets the tone. And it sets the tone as well that Sonny Mehta is his own person. That nobody's telling Sonny to do this. Sonny's calling the shots. And he's doing this with conviction. Good or bad. I don't care if I will take the bad, because finally we have a GM that has balls to do these kind of things.
And I think that's here's the thing. I know you've ragged on analytics in the past. You're kind of that guy who doesn't like the numbers, but I think this is the perfect kind of numbers guy for you, because he's a poker player, right? He's not a guy who reads a sheet and tells you what kind of hockey player is going to be. He's a guy who reads the cards and makes a move based on the flop, right? He understands the gamble. He understands the risk. These are how he's looking. He's not looking at it as like the sheet tells me to do. He's not like the New York Yankees who are doing everything. The sheet tells me to go to the bullpen, right? I don't think he's doing that. What he's doing is like, the numbers tell me, it's like a guy playing blackjack. The numbers tell me that if I have a 12 and the dealer has a 3, I should stay, right? Like, so he's kind of going a gambler's kind of mentality.
He is a hybrid because, I mentioned this on the Will Report. The difference between him and David Stearns is Sonny Mehta is actually human and relatable. Like, if you hear David Stearns talk, I feel like he's badgering the employees that are pissed off that the company's not doing well. That's what it feels like. The media that's attending his press conferences. But Sonny Mehta is very human. And what's funny is he is an analytics guy, but I honestly think that he is pump faking everybody, because there's an emotional IQ that he has that nobody gives him credit for, because he's been branded as the analytics guy. This guy is so ninja. I can't tell you, like, why haven't, like, other GMs, even including Lou Lamoriello. I mean, Lou Lamoriello is a pioneer of trolling. Like, what happened early in his career with have another donut and then getting a restraining order and all that kind of stuff. Throwing jelly against the wall and all that. Lou has his stories, but Sonny Mehta, let me tell you something. This is very refreshing. You know why, Nick? Why is exciting to me as a fan? He's not predictable like Tom Fitzgerald was. Not predictable.
Tom Fitzgerald was a good old boy. And I'm not trying to disparage him, because Tom Fitzgerald was a good GM for like a year. There was a year there that he was a good GM, like top 10 in the league. It lasted a year. He just, and I wrote about how in one day, in basically 30 hours, Sonny made a show that he's not Tom Fitzgerald. He's nothing like him. He's nothing like a lot of GMs out there. He got rid of the Jacob Markstrom albatross of a contract. Which, here's the thing. A lot of people are saying, well, Jacob Markstrom's going to bounce back in Florida. I don't think Sonny Mehta cares. He's not rooting against the players he's traded away. He could care less. Doesn't work for me. Doesn't work with what I'm trying to do with the Devils. It doesn't work for my cap situation. It doesn't work for me. It works for Florida. So he trades him. And I bet you he told them he was going to trade him. I bet you had that conversation. He seems like the kind of guy that's not hiding from anything. Right? I'm coming in. I have to make moves. I have to be the bigger person and just kind of get this team on the right track. It's going to be hard. And, we're going to talk, like I said, we're going to talk about Nico Hischier. But Nico Hischier spoke to the media this morning after re-signing with the Devils a 5-year extension. And he came out and said, I believe in Sonny's plan. And I think that's the thing. Tom Fitzgerald would try to take advantage of the things that fell in his lap. And then because he didn't have a plan to go back to, he couldn't pull the trigger. Right? This is why the whole Quinn Hughes situation still is happening. Because Tom Fitzgerald didn't plan ahead. He waited for things to fall in his lap. He didn't, Tom Fitzgerald should have had a plan of how to get Quinn Hughes here 4 years ago. And it was clear that when it came up in December, he said, I can't do this unless I get rid of Dougie Hamilton, which is stupid. Like, just straight. I'm not calling Tom Fitzgerald stupid. I'm saying the move was stupid. And you lost Quinn Hughes because you couldn't trade one player. I'm going to guarantee you that that's not going to happen now. Sonny Mehta is not losing a player because he can't trade another one. No contract on this team is going to prevent any move he wants to make. He will figure it out. He'll figure it out. He will figure it out because guess what? Florida figures it out. Vegas figures it out. Dallas figures it out. Colorado figures it out. These teams, Tampa figures it out. These teams that win championships figure it out. And here's the thing, Sam. I know you and me have been in a similar position where we're fighting all of Minnesota right now, right? And they're trying to be on their high horse because Elliot Friedman came out today and said that he's going to resign for 3 years. He's signing for $18 million. You're paying $35 million to Kirill Kaprizov and Quinn Hughes, and you're trying to dunk on people, and your team is Garbola. And you got Bill Guerin, who just won GM of the Year. Because, listen, it took brass balls to give up what he gave up for Quinn, but it was all futures. It was all lottery tickets, right? Like, you could become a millionaire or they could all flop. He gave up nothing of substance. I think what Zito did to get Matthew Tkachuk took a lot more like stuffing than what Guerin did. Guerin gave up futures. And Marco Rossi. Marco Rossi was probably the NHL piece, but give up futures.
Well, I want to point out something about Matt Zuccarello, who's a very, very classy person, because Bill Guerin, listening that at first, Bill Guerin was practically avoiding him. And, and then eventually they hugged it out or whatever. But if I were Quinn Hughes and I'm watching that scenario, Matt Zuccarello, very well-respected player when he was a Minnesota Wild. Very good player. The way Bill Guerin treated him on the way out, I know it's a business, but it's also a relationship business. And that bothered Mats. Right now, it's water under the bridge, they say. But I don't know.
For a bonus-laden contract in L.A. If it was water on the bridge, I think he would have done that in Minnesota.
Yeah, and also, by the way, every day that goes by, and you want to talk about somebody, Bill Guerin knew that he had to sign Quinn Hughes. They're just in preliminary discussions right now.
I mean, the Friedman thing is throwing me off because he's the only one who has this $18 million number. And he just slipped it into his morning brief, right? He does like a notebook dump on day one of free agency of everything he's hearing. That was probably the headline. Should have been. It was like Quinn Hughes, we got a terms that we're thinking we have here. But here's the deal: is that popular wisdom is that if you get a shorter contract, you get less money. But Quinn Hughes is apparently going to bank out to line his contract up to Jack Hughes. And here's the thing: would I have rathered Quinn Hughes sign for a year? Or not signed at all and go to free agency? Yeah, of course. But I don't see a path for the Minnesota Wild to do what, let's say, the Carolina Hurricanes did this year. I see a path for the Devils. If the Devils get Hayton and then get Hellebuck, they're I don't want to call them the favorites because they're not. But which Eastern Conference team is better?
Right now, it's the Carolina Hurricanes.
Who's their goalie? Boosie? I'm not trusting that.
But who was? I mean, they won without a goalie. They just got hot in the playoffs.
Yeah. Listen, I it's definitely them. Like, they're up there. Carolina's in that conversation, and they've had the Devils number, right? So that's part of it. But man, they didn't dominate in the playoffs like you thought they should have with how many injuries that the Devils had. I just wish the Devils had a little bit more luck. Because, even going, we did podcasts before that playoff series. I said the only way that the Devils are going to beat the Carolina Hurricanes is if Luke Hughes goes psycho mode. And he didn't last the game. Yeah. Right? Like, you needed Simon Nemeth and Luke Hughes to go off their rocker. I don't even think Simon Nemeth was in game one. You needed one of the young defensemen to lose his mind and take over a game. Because both of them have the skill to do it, especially Luke Hughes. And you lost him game one. So that was kind of it. But that said, I look at this team, and again, we're gonna compare it to Minnesota. I think Minnesota's a better team when you look at number 1 to number 23. I think the Devils have a easier path to the Stanley Cup when you look at who's in the Eastern Conference and you look at who they're going to be facing the first, the second, and the third round. I think the Devils are like, when you take the premium position factor into it, the Wild have one center, and he's a top 20 guy, I think. That's the thing. Like, Joel Eriksson Ek is one of those, like, if you ask me, is he a top 20 center? I'd be like, yeah. But then you start naming centers, you're like, I could probably get to 20 without naming Eriksson Ek. He's kind of in that Dylan Larkin, like Tim Stützle, like he's in this place that's like 18 to 24. There's a lot of guys in there. So, while the Devils have Jack Hughes, who I'd argue is probably between 7 and 10 in the league when healthy, and Nico Hischier, who I think is between 10 and 15. And he's been pretty healthy the past couple of years, knock on wood. So you got 2 top 15 guys by most measures, and one who's on almost every list, the top 10 guy when you take injury out of the equation, and could be a top 5 guy when you take injury out of the equation. Against the Minnesota Wild, who have Kirill Kaprizov, Matthew Boldy, and Quinn Hughes. You can throw Faber in there. I think Faber is good, not great, when you look at it, but fine. I don't know. You need growth from Luke Hughes. You need Timo Meier to not be the unluckiest player in the league. And this is a really good Devils team. There's is there 2 other teams that have 2 top 15 centers? Edmonton, obviously. Is there another team that has 2 top 15 centers? 2 top 20 centers? There's probably one with 2 top 20. I'm trying to think.
Would you consider Pittsburgh?
No. Crosby's in there, but Malkin's. I don't even know if Malkin's top 30 anymore. Who's maybe Florida with Barkov and Bennett?
Yeah, you would have to put them up there.
Yeah. Probably Florida. Who's Colorado's second line center? I can't think of it. You know, you might argue Toronto with Matthews and Tavares. I think Tavares is probably right outside of there. But you can put the list is very small, which is why centers are going for such a premium price, which takes me back to Hayton. That's the part we're not talking about. And we'll move on to Heischer's contract because I do want to give some time to that. Hayton being a center makes this immensely more valuable. Which is why when I see people like Frank Saravalli say that this is a stupid move, like, what are you talking about? I think this is a brilliant move. Because here's the thing, what do you have to lose? It's not like teams aren't going to answer Sonny Meda's call because he did an offer sheet. And truthfully, who do the Devils have coming up who's an RFA? Are you going to offer sheet Dawson Mercer? You know, like
Sonny's
okay.
like, I dare you.
Please? Thank you? Are you going to offer sheet Lenny Hamanaho? Okay. It would stink. But, like, I'm not losing sleep over it. Are you going to offer sheet... You know, like you see, like Paul Cotter, he didn't give Paul Cotter a qualifying offer. And Paul Cotter got almost $2.5 million contract. You can't give Paul Cotter that contract if you're the Devils.
Yeah.
You know, you see... The one that hurt me today, you're going to be surprised by this. I was sad that they didn't give Zach McEwen that contract. 2 years, I think it was like $975,000. I really liked the fit. He couldn't stay healthy. He got hurt twice. And he only played like 6 games, I think.
Yeah.
I really like the fit. But it is what it is. Like, those are the type of moves, like, I would have really loved it if we kept them, but I'm not losing sleep over it kind of thing. But yeah, listen. Perfect day. Not a perfect day. I wish they got like one really good NHL player for like the bottom 6 to kind of be in and out of the lineup, like a Bjorkstrand. Like I said, he's not really good anymore, but a guy with upside. But they got some guys that make sense from the analytics side who can be AHL players or NHL players. It looks like they're keeping Bustad, which surprises me. But did you know that he only played like I think 14 minutes in the penalty kill last year, but his team scored more than he allowed goals in the penalty kill last year for the Devils?
Didn't know that.
I had to make sure that I read the stat right, but I'm almost positive that's the case. He was their best penalty killer, like by all these different, like, you know, per 60 statistics. So not bad to keep that. And then here's the thing. Getting Barrett Hayton gives the Devils incredible flexibility because I think he can play with Hughes. If you want to do the thing where Hughes plays the wing for the faceoff and then plays a traditional center during the play, you can have Hayton take faceoffs. Hayton is a really good defensive center. A really good defensive center. Like is net positive on the defensive side. And you know, he's like a 15 goal, 30 to 40 point guy. I think he's more in New Jersey. I think he's more like a 15 to 20 and like a 50 point guy, which I love that. I think he's a guy who's going to be a middle 6 guy. And that allows you to move Cody Glass, or that allows you to play around. Like, that allows you, I mean, what the Devils could do is they could do Glass, Hayton, and Rodriguez. And then that'll be your shutdown line. There's a lot of moves that are still to come, Sam, because I don't see a spot for Stefan Nason on this team. I just don't see where he fits. I didn't see where he fit last year. I think he fit pretty well 2 years ago when they first signed him, and he quickly just didn't have a place. And you saw it in the numbers, right? He went from a 20-goal guy to I think he's 6 last year, maybe less. He had a bad season. And then, they got 5 left-handed defensemen signed. So you have to wonder, listen, I've been on record that I think that Brendan Dillon had a much better season last year after the neck surgery, but his analytics aren't very good. And I think that doesn't look good for him in a world of Sonny Mehta. But the other one is Jonas Siegenthaler. And I think there's a human element to this. He sure revealed today that Siegenthaler is getting married this week. I don't know if you'd trade a guy in his wedding week. I think Mehta would at least wait a week, right, and just kind of hold the deal.
Yeah.
Again, because you talked about it, he is personable. He's brutal, but I think he's personable. And I think he knows you can't trade a guy on his wedding week and then get the room back. Right? That loses you some points. And I think if he said we knew he was getting married, so we waited a week to do the deal, I think that would go a really long way. But anyway, I love the Nico Hischier contract. I think it's a little expensive, but I mean a little. I kind of expect it to be 11.5, and it's 11.7. They didn't go all the way to 12, which there's some significance there. Maybe not this year. Well, it's not this year. It doesn't go into effect this year. But next year, I think that extra $300,000 will mean something. You didn't go to 13, which I think would have been a step too far. Especially if he's not giving you the full 8 years. And I like that it's 5. You got 6 more years to figure this out. It doesn't coincide with Jack Hughes' deal. It doesn't, so if Jack, say that the nuclear option of Jack Hughes happens, then you still got Nico Hischier. You still got a top 20 center, and you can build around that. So the deal is great. I love the deal. And yeah, I don't have a lot more to say. I really love the deal.
Yeah, it gives continuity and stability to the New Jersey Devils. And I think that's what they kind of need right now. There's been a lot of changes. I'm interested to see how this goalie situation plays out, Nick, because, they fired the goalie coach, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, and I put it out there on X, that the goalie budget right now for the New Jersey Devils is $2.9 million AAV for both goalies.
Yeah, it's cheap.
I mean, compared to what Florida, where Sonny came from, they had that budget. And, good on Markstrom going down to Florida in that trade, and then Kira Schmid getting traded. Maybe because of all the success they had with Vitek Vanacek, that they're figuring, the Colorado Avalanche is having success with Wedgwood and Blackwood. Why can't we? I was joking, kind of.
I know what you're saying. Sam, how long have I been saying go with 3 goalies?
A very long time. And this is a one-way deal. Am I correct with Nico Dawes?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. One-way deals don't matter. One-way deals don't matter. His entire deal is variable. I don't think that's the word, but I'm saying it. If he goes to the AHL, he doesn't count towards the salary cap. That was purposeful. So for those who don't know, what a one-way deal means is you make one salary no matter where you are. I think it's $975,000 next year and then $1.25 the year after. He's going to make that if he's on the Devils or on the Comets or wherever else. He does have to pass through waivers. But I've heard a lot of people say, my sources, other people's sources, some of our writer sources, say the Devils are fine with this. I heard they sniffed around Hellebuck. My friends have heard the same thing. I haven't heard anything else. I haven't had time to kind of follow up. But I think it's cooled at best. I think Hellebuck's cooled. However, I think Buffalo needed to do it today for me to be convinced that they're the only dog in play. I think they've opened the door to allow other teams to get involved in this, including the Devils. I don't think the Devils are there yet. But I don't see why they wouldn't try. But it is a good sign for Nico Dawes. I love Nico Dawes. I think Nico Dawes. I have a bet with one of the Pucks Pitchforks writers that Nico Dawes will be on an NHL roster in 5 years. I think he's one of those guys. He's going to stick in the NHL. I think he has the talent. I think he's been in a terrible situation. He had the hip injury, which is the biggest concern to me. It's not even like it's like, well, look at his AHL. I don't care. That Utica team was a dog last year. That Utica team was a dog. I don't know who's to blame for it. I don't know enough about it. And the people I think that cover the team, I don't think will tell me the truth. Or I don't even think they think the truth. I think they there's something about those small market coverages, but I think Dawes is a good goalie in a bad situation over and over again. Did that bad situation ruin his development? I think they're going to find out this year. And I think that, but he can go to the AHL. I think he knows that. He has to know that his contract is variable, and that's a possibility. The Devils did, allow Tyler Brennan to go by the wayside, which took away some depth of their goaltender position. But he was really just an Adirondack guy.
Yeah.
They got Jacob Malik. I think they signed a veteran. I can't remember him off the top of my head. Can you remember if they signed a goalie?
But as you're doing some online research, I'm seeing a couple comments in the YouTube live. I want to get to, Nick.
Yeah, let's get the comments.
One of them, I'm trying to get to it right now. The phone is stalling. So Nintendo Wii says, I heard Alexander Command described as a player Lou Lamoriello would have loved.
Is that a good thing?
I think it's a great thing because he's a hard worker. A hard worker. And from what I could tell, this offer sheet that was extended, he's a hard worker too. And then getting Evan Rodriguez as well. He's a hard worker. You get the theme right now? These guys don't quit. That's the kind of culture that Sonny Mehta is trying to build in New Jersey. And that bottom six is going to be exciting. They're going to grind it out. And this is a very blue collar type bottom six. As far
That's
as
kind of what he had in Florida, right? They had blue collar guys in that bottom six.
Yeah,
AJ Greer, Jesper Boquist, who he acquired in the Jacob Markstrom trade.
They eat up time, and they let their stars, they don't get worn out. And if you're going to roll four lines, this is what you need.
If you could evaluate Sheldon Keefe's coaching last year, there's two major negatives that would stick out. One, this team died anytime they faced adversity, and I blame Sheldon Keefe for that. It's on the players somewhat, but Sheldon Keefe has known to get those pieces back. But the actual tactical thing is that he used Nico Hischier as a shutdown guy. when you're using one of your most gifted offensive players in a shutdown role, you're hurting the team. It's one thing if he gets stuck in the defense and he knows how to get out of it. It's another thing that every time Connor McDavid's on the ice, you're putting Nico Hischier on the ice. You know what I mean? Because then what is equated into a win changes. If I'm going against Connor McDavid, it's a win if he doesn't score. If I'm on the ice in an offensive position, I need to have an offensive opportunity. So I think Sonny Mehta was like, I need to change the philosophy of this team. And I think it's smart. Now you can put out a line with Bustad or Glass or, if this offer sheet goes through Hayton, and that be your shutdown line. And Hischier, you can focus. Because here's the thing, Sam. You put Nico Hischier in the position, but who else do you put in that position? Then you put Dawson Mercer and Timo Meier in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also hurting Timo Meier's numbers. I think I have to really think about this, Sam, but I'm going to make a bold prediction on this podcast. I don't know if it's going to be next year, but Timo Meier is going to score 40 goals one more time in his career with the Devils. Unless he gets traded this year, next year, I think in the next 3 years, Timo Meier has one more 40-goal season in his blood. And I think it's because Sonny Mehta is going to change the way he's utilized.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of the position that Timo Meier is in, he's holding the stick so tight that he's putting himself in a position to score but can't execute because he's shooting it over the net or he's putting it in a place where he can get robbed. He's overthinking it, and he's holding the stick too tight all season long. And I think he's going to be a 40-goal scorer again. So I don't know if that answered the question. Kind of really didn't. I think Command is a guy. I think Command is an NHL player. I think he's a third-line center, which is why I didn't like the pick. It's not my type of pick. I like high upside picks, and he did that twice. He did it 3 times on day 2. So I'm
going to make a prediction about Command.
Okay.
Now, don't laugh at me, but I'm going to compare him to a former NHL player. What we're going to get out of him, potentially.
Can I guess?
You get 3 guesses.
My initial guess is John Madden.
No.
Can you tell me the era?
It's in that era. Was never a Devil. That's the only clue.
Oh, it wasn't a Devil. Oh, then I have no idea.
Rod Brindamore.
Okay. Was Brindamore a center or a winger?
No, he was a center.
It was a center, okay.
I mean, he could play anywhere,
Yeah.
On the power play.
It's one of those things that, my brain only has so much capacity, and Rod Brindamore's position probably got knocked out by when his swim class. So,
he always took face-offs. He was gritty. There's something about that kid that just stood out, that he would be like that emotional spark plug on a team, like a Rod Brindamore, and he's just going to outwork you. From what I could tell from all the scouting reports and all that talent level, that's to remain to be seen. But he just seems like he's a kid that's just going to be very well respected in that locker room, even as a third line center.
Here's what I hate to even invoke the name, but I think he's the guy. I've said this a lot, and again, I just hate bringing him up because I just feel kind of icky, but he's the guy I think that you wanted McLeod to be before he got arrested. I think he does have that upside. McLeod also a 12th overall pick, ironically enough. but I think he comes in with that mindset. And the Devils have been looking for that, and they kind of got in Cody Glass last year. Hard worker, scored 20 goals through hard work, right? Like, Cody Glass only scored 20 goals last year because he worked really hard, right? Like, he was working on every possession. My issue is when you draft motor guys, and I'm saying the same thing about the guy the New York Rangers just got from Utah in the Finton trajectory, Cole something. I don't know his last name. When the first thing you say is this guy's got a great motor, my issue is that guys with great motors put themselves in a position for injury, and they don't have the talent to overcome injury when they return. And that's where I get a little worried. But we can move on to the next question if we have another one.
Sorry, I mean no disrespect, but I completely disagree. But
with which part?
Oh, the high motor scouting report, and you get worried that they're going to break down.
I just think it's a risk. I think it's bigger. You're putting yourself. A guy with a high motor is taking more board battles, and I want them to, right? Like Jesper Bratt takes a ton of board battles, but it's almost like drafting a running back who ran 300 times in college. You just had to take it into account.
Disagree,
and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
again,
I disagree.
And this is, I'm talking about this from, again, when I'm looking at my top prospects, right? I like those guys in the second round and beyond, even late first. 12th overall, I wanted a guy who's special. Now, the question, the guys I really wanted were off the board. And I wanted Lawrence. I wanted Bjork. All the good defensemen were off the board. So I think he kind of got put in a position where everybody's kind of a flyer, right? Belschutz, there's a lot of risk there. Hemming, there's a ton of risk, I think. I think there's a ton of risk with Hemming. So when I look at it, I just really didn't want command. But the more I've done my research on him, the more it's clear that his floor is NHL player for a long time. Like, if he has less than a 10-year career, I'd be shocked. I think there's a very low bust potential where he's just like a 100-game guy. But I also think the ceiling is very low. I think he's gonna just fit into this box right here. Right, this is where like guys like the top talent people, and here is like the Chase Stillmans are down here. I just think he fits right here. He's gonna be an NHL guy, probably a long-time NHL guy. Maybe he's Jay Pandolfo. Maybe he's, I'm just trying to think of I'm having trouble finding a good comp. Like, he's not like a Bobby Holik, right? He's not that kind of guy, not that kind of hard worker. He's not an Adam Henrique. Like, I would consider Adam Henrique a good motor guy, but he's not. It doesn't feel the same. Doesn't feel like the right comparison. I don't know. Like, I'm having really trouble just thinking of who he reminds me of. But anyway, did you have any other questions? I know we're kind of at the end here.
Nope. I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'll do my plugs then.
Yeah, go right ahead.
PucksandPitchworks.com. Listen, we got you. All free agency, all off season. We will continue to give you 50 or 100 articles a month. Well, sorry, I'm going to give you 50 articles a month. The website is going to give you 100 articles a month. Make sure you read. We got 2 pieces up today from JB Gambatees, who wrote about the earlier signing, whose name's escaping me, and he wrote about the news piece on the offer sheet. And then I wrote about what this means for Sonny Mehta. I wrote about Elliot Friedman's report about Connor Hellebuck. I wrote about Nico Heischer's extension. I'm going to write about Quinn Hughes tonight because why not? It's always fun to rile up the Minnesota Wild fans. But yeah. But BucksandPitchforks.com. Go check it out.
All right. Well, you can find me on X at Primetime Sam Wu. I've been chirping. Also, follow our YouTube channel at Let's Go Devils. And on X at Let's Go Devils Pod. And go to pucksandpitchforks.com as well. So there we go. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Dropping the podcast in 20 minutes. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music Prime, Audible. And we'll keep it covered. Keep covering the Devils. Tomorrow, I got my emergency equipment in case news breaks, Nick. But it's going to be hot tomorrow. It may be like 115 degrees in the Jeep if the Devils make a move. So, we'll see what happens. But thank you. As Jacob says, smash that like button. That's right. Thank you to everybody tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Till next time, let's go Devils.